This podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial by simply going to audibletrial.com/TSE. Audible has nearly 200,000 titles you can choose from. One of the books I recommend right now is The Science of Selling by David Hoffel. Awesome book. It teaches you the scientific and also the artistic things that you can implement to improve your sales. To get a free audio download of this book and a 30-day free trial of Audible, simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Tell them Donald sent you. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have a great guest today. His name is Donald Scherer. Donald's story is very interesting. He was a New York tax attorney turned entrepreneur. Donald was also the co-founder and CEO of Cross Border Solutions, which he grew into one of the world's largest tax software companies. Dude knows a thing or two when it comes to running a successful organization, but more importantly, how to help that company generate income. Today, we're going to talk about the idea of an assembly line for our sales process. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. Let's go ahead and dive into the content. Welcome to the show, Don.
Hey, nice to be here.
Man, I'm excited to have you. I'm looking forward to chat about this concept because, there are so many people who have a really difficult time with selling. And oftentimes it comes down to having a process that you can follow. But in your case, I think you're going to share some ideas with us that most people have not even thought about. And I'm looking forward to chat about that. But before we dive into all the fun stuff, Don, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, man?
Well, it's been a good journey. I was an international tax attorney, believe that, and I was working for a large accounting firm. And as you can imagine, it's as boring as it sounds. And I started a software company with my mother of all people. This was about 15 years ago, and we decided one day, let's just start a company. I'm not making a lot of money there. She was doing much better than I, but we're going to start a software company. And we went off and developed software, and it turned out that our first customer was Pepsi, our second customer was Intel, and we grew that company from our living room without any institutional investors. Almost a $30 million company that was then sold to Thomson Reuters for just north of $80 million. So we had a great run.
What?
And we had a really good run. We became a 300-person company. No institutional investors. We just bootstrapped it the whole way through. And the way we were able to do that, we had great product, great phenomenal team, great product, but really what drove us was that we figured out how to sell to businesses, large companies, large, mid-sized, small. We sort of figured out the secret sauce. And when we went up for auction, we had an auction for the company.
Yeah. While
companies were bidding for us because they liked the product, all they wanted to do was hear more about how our sales methodology worked. Because they thought that then they can take that and put it in their product or their platform on however they did it. So we became, while we were a tax company, we were really a sales company. And that was my introduction to sales. And then from there, after I sold the company, after I played some golf, I went down and said, okay, golf was almost worse than international tax. I started another company, a sales software company. We had our methodology was so unique that we couldn't use Salesforce and some of the other off-the-shelf products. So we built our own sales acceleration tool, and that's what drove our growth. And then my next company, which is called AssemblySales.com, is basically the commercialization of that software product that drove our sales.
Well, first off, congratulations, man. Selling the first organization and all of this. And you did that without any outside investors, just something that you just bootstrapped. And it's amazing. And first of all, it just shows you and your mom.
There was a $300,000 loan very early on from not an institutional investor that just got us over that first hump. But that was a loan. It was a friends and family type thing.
Yeah, so just private. That's amazing, man. Well, congrats on that. And especially, I'm about to call my mom right now, man. You did a business with your mother and did that successful. So,
and you know what's funny? We're still on speaking terms. And we even during that, we still had our Sunday night dinners. I mean, there were clearly fights, there were clearly darkroom days, as any startup goes through. But we're still on speaking terms, and she's actually still involved. She's now 76 years old, and she's still the chief technology officer of the new company.
Oh my goodness! Congrats, man!
For like 15, almost 20 years now.
Now, this is something that I feel is revolutionary in this concept, this assembly line model. Yesterday, my wife and I actually just watched The Founder, right? Have you seen that yet?
Sure.
You know, and
yeah. By the way, I took my kids to that movie. And I watched it with. I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And I took them to that movie because I thought they should see it. I thought that was the most amazing movie. I walked out of there just jacked about it. They all thought it was the most boring thing they ever did. I love that movie, right? But you can see why, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but yes, they built an assembly line.
Exactly.
To make burgers.
I know, right? And who'd have thought? Like, you look at Ray Kroc's first time buying a burger, he was confused. What do I do? Because the mindset was so jacked the other way. People were like, "Oh, what? I take it in a bag. Where's my silverware?"
That's right. And I'll tell you what I'll tell you is I think sales in many ways is like that, right? I mean, if you look at the old sales model, the traditional sales model, the traditional sales model is you have a salesperson that goes out on the road,
just like Ray did,
with clients, does everything, sets up his own appointments, sets up his own hours, does the meeting, builds the relationship, does the paperwork, and sometimes even takes care of the customer at the end of it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you do the math behind it, if you look mathematically behind it, it's almost impossible to scale that type of operation. Unless you have huge influxes of institutional investment, because it's so expensive and it's so inefficient. I used to work as a VC for a little bit of time, and I have friends that still are in there. And basically, at this point, they say if they see a direct sales model where a salesperson is going door to door, that's a company that they will not invest in. So it almost mathematically guarantees that the company eventually is going to fail.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, if you just do the math on it, do it that way, you're dead. It works very nicely when you're working with early adopters in the beginning when you're first launching a product. But as you try to get scale, basically it's an unscalable model. You can't hire enough people, they can't see enough clients, and their close rate's not high enough. So when you factor all those three things together, basically it's a death knell for you.
Oh, yeah. And that's why you see some of these, I will call them traditional managers, which is like, it's just a numbers game. You just got to go out there and knock on all these doors. And if you have a system, though, it's like, it's going to work a lot better for you. And this
it just can't work. And the volume's just not high enough. And what you find is, I'm going to plug, I have a book called Assembly Required. So I'll plug that later. But there's a great book called Play Bigger.
Play Bigger.
Play Bigger based. Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. It's on the bestsellers list. It's one of the first books that I've read that actually does the research. And I think they looked at every company that has been VC backed for the last 10 or 15 years. And they did research on this. And it basically shows if you don't scale your sales operation up within the first 4 years and become the market leader, you're going to fail. That only one company in any market actually, and you see that play out over and over again. And by fail, I mean, it might not be you go out of business tomorrow, but it means that no one's getting their investment back. The founders everyone's working hard for nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're scraping the bottom. You're paying bills, and that's it.
And it turns out that's because the sales models don't work. The traditional sales models. Most companies fail because their sales are not working. Not because of the product market fit, not because of the management team. Listen, you and I both know that there's a close rate for anything.
Yeah. If
you have a good salesperson, everything, this whole concept of there's no product market fit, it's BS. There's always a product market fit if you have a good salesperson. And the other reason you hear, well, the management team wasn't getting along. Well, the management team's not getting along because everyone's fighting because no one's making sales.
Exactly, right?
It comes back to sales. You got to make sales. And what we figured out is, how do you make sales in an efficient manner that allows you to do it on a cost-effective basis and at scale?
And that's what I want to know now. It makes total sense. But I want to know now, like the sales assembly line model, like somebody's listening to this, they're like, what is that, Donald? Like, what is you and Donald talking about?
It's a term that we coined. And you hear other things, people call it a high velocity model. But basically the concept is, we looked at how do you mass produce anything? And you mass produce things by making an assembly line, whether it's a car, it's a refrigerator, or it's a hamburger. Basically are mass producing things. And the way you do that is you build an assembly line. And an assembly line has three principal concepts. One, you have to specialize. So along the line, you have people that do a set role over and over and over again. You don't have people that play many roles. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So in the sales environment, if you think about that, we don't want anyone doing everything. So we have in our environment, companies that we work with, we set up an SDR. An SDR only sets appointments. Our SDRs don't even call. We have callers that reach people and then pass them to the SDRs. So our callers make $300 a day. They get a live body on the phone. They pass it to the SDR. The SDR then convinces the person, schedule the appointment, and then passes that appointment to the account exec. But we don't have our SDRs doing research.
No.
We have someone else that specializes in research doing research. The basic concept is, if you have a very skilled worker, don't let them do anything else but what they're skilled at. So if you have a SDR that is a valuable resource, they can convince someone on the phone to take a demo of a product that they've never heard of. That's a skill.
Yeah.
Why would you have them dialing the phone or doing research? Let them speak to people. It's the concept, and you take that on every role in the sales organization. So our account executives don't do anything but close. And what we find is, for instance, that if it doesn't close in 3 months, it goes to an incubator professional who keeps them warm. Then they send it back to the salesperson to close, because we don't want our valuable resource sitting there doing, hey, how are you? Are you ready? Or call me back in 6 months. Let someone else do that. You close your deal. So it's specialization. The second thing that you see in any assembly line is first, and then we apply it to the sales environment, is best practice. If you think about it, if you are on an assembly line, you don't let the guy who's riveting figure out where I'm going to drill here, I'm going to drill here, and then I'm going to put another hole there because I like it. What we do is we determine what best practices are through A/B testing. We say, all right, this worked. This is working in this sales environment. Okay, now we may have to make sure that every person along the line is doing the thing that works every time, repeatable, over and over and over again. And that's how you have a repeatable sales process. And now you can scale. And then I guess the third piece is that this is complex, right? Think about it. A typical sales assembly line has 10, 12 stages. And the sales assets, the leads, the opportunities, the customers are moving back and forth all the time. And you don't want bottlenecks. So, right? Because all of a sudden, if your SDRs are getting too many leads, that means that your salespeople have too much. Now you have a bottleneck or they're cherry picking. We have software. Basically, what we did is we developed software that controls these sales assembly lines and controls the flow, controls the management of it, controls, what's the word for it? Controls to make sure that they're doing the same thing over and over again, the best practices. We basically build sales assembly line software, and that's what we use rather than a traditional CRM product.
That is amazing.
That's it's neat stuff. It's the next gen of what I think CRM software will become. CRM software, everyone was very excited about Salesforce. You remember.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could take the computer on the road to the client and enter the information, right? Everyone's like, oh, wow, cloud. You could enter the information. But it wasn't built. It was built for the generalist who does everything. It wasn't built for a sales assembly line where you have multiple different people playing multiple singular roles along the line. And that's what we developed. That's the methodology we've developed, and I guess that's the software we developed to support the methodology.
What's the name of that software, and is that available for folks out there who are looking, got interested?
It's called Assembly. It's assemblysales.com, and that's the software package. It's neat stuff. We work with mostly VC-backed companies to basically help them hyperscale. and become market leaders. And our software is sort of the way that we implement the methodology, right? It's not sort of software like that you can use how you want. Basically says, all right, if this methodology sounds good, if you want to build a sales assembly line, this software will help you get there.
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing.
Right?
Man, I'm like loving this, man. This is amazing. I think there's so many companies because I worked in organization, I see how we fell short a lot because I was a cook, the bottle washer, the janitor and everything. And, I brought a client on and I'm trying to go out and bring more in, but then this client have a little issue, but because I'm the account manager, it's my deal. I need to take care of that when it's like, no, it's the company's.
But that's crazy.
It is.
You have a skill. You have a skill that maybe only 1% of people have. You can convince someone to buy something that they might or might not need.
Yeah.
That's a skill. And if you're not doing only that, if you're doing anything but helping people close, that is a waste of money. Are you particularly good at hugging clients? I'm sure that there's better people at hugging clients. Your skills closing, let you close. Why in the world should you be doing that? You should be running 50 deals a month.
Exactly.
Stuff. You don't need to be sitting there answering a phone call because their software is not booting up or whatever it is, right? Let someone else do that who's good at hugging.
I love this, man. Don, we're kindred friends, man. We're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, Don is going to talk to us about what if you're an established organization and you want to implement an assembly line. Is it too late for you? I think you still have hope. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Hey guys, as you know, we are starting TSE Hustlers League coming up right around the corner. With Hurricane Irma, we got pushed back a week, so we're beginning October 5th. If you want to join, you still have time. We have a few more slots available. But TSE Hustlers League is our online group coaching program designed to help sellers of all levels, whether you're new to sales or you've been selling for 20 years. It can definitely help you. To learn more, go to thesalesevangelist.com/hustlers, thesalesevangelist.com/hustlers. It would be an honor to have you join us. Now, as we dive into the second half of this episode, Don is going to talk to us particularly about how we can implement this assembly line sales process, even if we're an established organization. Get your Evernotes and pens ready because you're going to get some great insights. So let's talk about, as we go into this next little part here, let's talk about what if I'm a company, I'm an established organization already, I realize the errors of my ways, and I want to start this, but I don't have, I may not be a VC-backed company, but let's just break it down. What's the first step right now to start?
Well, I will tell you two things. Most of the companies that come to us in that position know they have to, but they're tending not to make their numbers, right? There's that moment of truth where you look at your spreadsheet and say, holy shit, I'm running out of loss. I'm not seeing enough clients. I'm not doing enough business. What can I do? So, necessity is the mother of all inventions. So that sort of helps you get over that hump. The question that we have all the time is, I was just doing with a company on Friday with it. I have some sales operations, so I can't switch over entirely tomorrow because I don't want to screw everything up. What we tend to do with companies like that, we start running in parallel. We keep the existing operation going for a 6-month transition, but we're building out the sales assembly line during that time. And it's a gradual transition from one to the next, because you can't blow up what you got, but you can't stick with what you got either. We have ways to do that.
How do just one of the questions I have is how do you handle commission and stuff like that? Is the commission still there, or how is compensation taken care of?
No. Listen, in any sales organization, you and I both know that commissions drive results and plans drive results. Mm-hmm. You still have commissions, but one of the things that you do have that is interesting, by specializing the roles, you can optimize your commission structure. For instance, if you have an SDRs get less commission. Account executive, but where you see it a lot is where account executives are also doing customer success.
Yeah.
So now they're paying that same commission structure on new sales as they do on renewal sales or upsell. We always say that's insane, right? Because a renewal sale and an upsell is always easier than a new sale. So in our environment on a sales assembly line, the account exec would, let's say on average, make a 10% commission. We would then suggest strongly that a renewal person gets 2 to 3%. That's more of a house account.
Yeah.
And a business development person that's upselling maybe gets 5%. But it allows you sort of, by breaking up the roles, it allows you to sort of target your commission properly and keep more internally for the house. Those should be house accounts, and you should pay less on those. And by doing this, it enables you to do that. I mean, I see companies all the time that are paying still 10% on the renewals that they're paying on new. And when you do that, what's the salesperson going to work on?
Shoot.
On the renewals.
I'm not going to get any no business. Yeah.
Now you're not growing. Why not? It's easier. I'll get the same 10% over there, and I don't have to work as hard.
Exactly. The point of the path of least resistance, right?
Damn right.
Shoot.
No, you got it. And so what you want to do is you want to break up those roles so that you can pay significantly less on the renewals, and the company can have more margin on them.
And
Those have to be your high margin account.
One of the benefits too I see with this is the idea now the house has more. One person doesn't have all the chips in their hand. Go back to the Ray Kroc movie here with Founder. One of the things I saw is that they gave Ray all the chips, so Ray took everything. Right. But if you diversify it, not one person has all of the chips, right? No, that's right. Everyone should. They're right. Listen, you're always going to be dependent. Yeah.
Right. If you have a high performing salesperson, you're always still dependent on that person. But by splitting up the roles, your dependence is somewhat lessened. One of the things that we very strongly suggest is, and it's a hallmark about it, is that we don't think that the VP of sales should control this whole thing. Because the VP of sales, you and I both know, when that VP of sales leaves, he leaves not only with the knowledge, but very often he leaves with his people.
Oh yeah,
or her people, right? I mean, that's the benefit of a great VP of sales is their network. So what we actually tend to do on our sales assembly line is that the marketing people, we have the marketing group controls the SDRs, the callers, because they're actually getting for outbound and for inbound, they're getting the lead. VP of sales controls the account executive. Then we put customer success and we put upsell under VP customer success so that no one actually has control of the entire process.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's a great way to protect yourself. So if the VP sales leaves, yes, you feel some pain, but it doesn't hit you in the customer success area, and it doesn't hit you in the
marketing and the business development,
the lead gen area, right? You're basically hedging your bets against everyone, and the chances are all three managers leaving have other issues.
Something is wrong for your business if that's the case. Give up already.
I can't help you. I don't know who can, but I certainly.
Does the size of the business matter when it come to developing a process or a system like this?
No. Listen. It's always easier to put it in from a young company that doesn't have it. We find a lot of companies that we put this in are actually, 3 or 4 years in. They just got their Series A, maybe their Series B, and what's happening is that all of a sudden they're not making their numbers.
Yeah.
Where we see it the most is that all of a sudden when they got their Series A or each Series B, there's outsized expectations because everyone knows you put together that forecast to get the money, and that forecast is usually pretty aggressive. I haven't seen anyone put together a forecast that says, I'm not going to sell a lot. And then all of a sudden they go, right? Yeah, no, yeah. And so they have to go and they have to implement that, and all of a sudden now they're missing their numbers every quarter. And the VCs are getting beside themselves because they're looking at their investment going down, which is why 80% of them drop. And that's where we usually come in and say, listen, we can restructure this and get you back on track and make everyone happy, basically.
Yeah, that's powerful there to see, to see that in an organization when someone can. And I guess go back. What I love about this is that with processes and a system like this, is that the predictability becomes just like almost like spot on every single time.
You know how you have to look at it, and I've heard you talk about this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at sales as a mathematical equation.
Yeah,
you have to say, listen, and the way we look at it is number of demos.
Mm-hmm.
Times a close rate times price gives you what your sales are going to be for any given quarter, month, year, right?
Yeah.
So if you have 100 demos and a close rate of 10% and you're charging $50,000, well, that's what you're going to make on a monthly basis. And what it turns out is when you have enough impressions, it usually stays the same. Once you have a close rate, you have a close rate. Once you know what your demo flow is, you have a demo flow. So you can predict almost to a T mathematically what your sales are going to be on any given time period, which then gives the company a lot of understanding of how good they're doing or how bad they're doing and what has to be done to improve.
Yeah, and you can fine tune, like you said, if there's a bottleneck, you can fine tune more easily where you're having issues so you can make sure your process is running at max speed.
Oh, that's right. I mean, if you see all of a sudden that if you have too many demos and your close rate drops, that means that people are cherry picking, right?
Yeah.
It's all a question of sort of load balance. And that's a very assembly line term, but you're actually load balancing. Because what you find is that if you give them too many opportunities, then the close rates drop. If you give them too few, maybe you have a higher close rate, but now you're not making enough money. So you have to figure out that optimum equilibrium, so to speak, to get to where you want to be with the assets that you're doing. It's all mathematical. It's all sales is all math. And I think that the quicker that people understand that, the better off most sales organizations will be.
You mentioned that you did this in your organization. Real quick, are there any other organizations that you're willing to tell us, you don't have to share a name, that has implemented this and seen an amazing result?
Yeah, we're working with a portfolio. We have a company that's a portfolio company. It's called Cross Border Solutions. I can give you some quick stats on that.
Yeah.
The company started in January of this year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, the company will do $7 million in sales revenue.
Wow.
Imagine that. That company gets roughly 100 plus appointments per month with a team of callers and SDRs. We have a close rate of 12% at a $50,000 average price, and you can just basically take it from there.
Yep.
They're running a sales assembly line that has a marketing person, a lead person, a marketing person, callers that just dial the phone, that then hands it off to the SDRs that make the calls, that hands it off to the account exec. We expect I'll give you some stats around it. We expect our callers to dial the phone 300 times a day. Each caller then will reach, I want to say, somewhere in the range of 7% reaches. Those reaches are then passed to the SDRs, who are expected to close 10% of those. So they get 3 to 5 appointments per day. The account execs get roughly 30 appointments per month. They're expected to close roughly 12% of those, and it goes on and on. But this company will do $7 million this year, and I think they'll do, at forecast, something in the range of $25 million next year. And that's right out of the gate.
Dude, wow.
This just works. It works.
It's repeatable. It works. If there's one major takeaway you'd like folks listening to this episode to walk away with, what's that one major piece of advice, Don?
One major takeaway, and I say this all the time, don't go door to door to sell. Use WebEx, use GoToMeeting, use those products to do your sales. That underpins our whole sales methodology. It allows you to see enough clients, it allows you to do volume, and if it's done right, the close rate with a web meeting seller is actually higher than a close rate can be with a door-to-door salesperson. People are always surprised. How do you build relationships over the web? And what I'll tell you is that it's much easier to build relationships over the web if it's done correctly than it is visiting face-to-face.
Oh, yeah. Some of the biggest deals I've ever closed, never seen a person face-to-face. So,
well, listen, and you know why you do that? Because if you go face-to-face, there's a finite number of times you could visit that person.
Oh, yeah.
What you find is if you do this right when you use web meeting software, is you can have 20 meetings with the person. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's an hour of your day out of 40 hours a week. There are so many benefits to using web meeting software versus door-to-door, and people are still scared of that. I mean, I was just at a client the other day, and they were like, well, we have to go shake. I'm like, no, you don't. As a matter of fact, if you do that, that's going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And, people are still getting over that hump. But what I can tell you with 100-degree certainty that it's better to do it that way than to go door-to-door.
So true, man. Now, you mentioned a book, and I wanted to give a chance to give a little plug towards that and any of the cool stuff you're working on. Is that?
Yep. No, it's I have a book out that was just published by Inc. magazine. It's called Assembly Required. It talks about this whole concept and basically how to implement it. You can find it on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble, at Hudson News in the airport. It's actually, we started off just writing something, and it turns out that people seem to like it. So it's we're really happy about it.
So cool, man. Do you have the audio version yet for those who listen to audiobooks as well?
We decided not to do that at some point.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll put everything in our show notes so folks can get access to it. They can get a chance to, purchase it or, download it if they want to get a digital copy of it or whatnot. But I think it's awesome, man. And if they want to get in touch with you,
the best way to get in touch with me is email me directly. It's at Donald.Scherer, Scherer at assemblysales.com.
Awesome, man. And Donald has a great name too.
And also you can look up. Book has a website, and I could get you, on Twitter and all that stuff. I'm on there, all the standard social.
Well, guys, if you're driving today, I'm telling you need to connect with Donald. He knows a thing or two, has seen a thing or two, and has done it very, very successfully. So I highly recommend you connect with him. We sure appreciate your time today, Don, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, this was great. Awesome. I love your show. Listen to it all the time, and I'm really thrilled I was able to sort of hopefully add some value.
You did. It was an honor. I told you the stuff was great. Don gave us some great insights, and I love the assembly line process. This is something that we're implementing right now in the TSE organization. It is phenomenal, and I can tell you that it works when you do it properly. Just try it. You can't go back and do the same old and realize that you're not getting great results because now you can't close deals because you're doing this and you're doing that. Delegate. Give it to other people. Give people jobs that they can do better than you and focus on what you do best, and that's closing opportunities, closing deals. Bringing on new clients, converting, or maybe you're great at finding and developing business opportunities. If that's your skill set, maybe that's what you're going to focus on. If you want to get connected with Don, learn a little bit more about him and some of the great things that he's doing, just simply go to the show notes of this episode. thesalesevangelist.com/episode number 658. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/episode number 658. All in all, we share the stuff. We give you these great insights. We have you learn about TSE Hustlers League, programs like this, because listen, I want to help you to be successful. I know how frustrating it was going through the rigmarole, doing the same old, and not seeing the great results that you dream of, the income you deserve, the opportunities and great things that you have in mind. We want to help you to accomplish all of this. And this is why we have this amazing podcast. And this is why we have such a great community and why we have TSE Hustlers League. All in all, I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy. But most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things.